Welcome back to episode 4 of Stellar Horizons, my campaign playthrough here. We are in the 2060s right now, beginning year 2060. We've already done the economic phase, so we're going to jump right into the build phase in just a moment here. So looking at the board and the research, Japan currently is way out ahead in technology. So I think this turn, what we're going to see, or this decade, what we're going to see, are both North and South America try to catch up a little bit in technology. North America was really hoping to get CV4s last turn, and they did not get them, so they are pretty disappointed about that. South America didn't really think they were getting it. They were further away from the tech. Both of them would like it at the end of this decade, so they're trying to get that research, and then both of them want biology as well. They also want to see, both of them want to see what's out at the main belt. There's really not a whole lot of world cards out there, and the one that is there is not that great for resource production. So I think we're going to see both North and South America try to head out to the main belt and try to get some world cards. And Japan now has the ability to make CV4s. And they probably will by the time this decade is over. But the problem right now with that, the recall rate for them is 45%. It's quite expensive to launch them from Earth. So I need to figure out what I want to do there. I think Japan is probably going to try to build a base somewhere, but they as well are interested in exploring the main belt a little bit more. I think we want to. I think everybody wants to try to look and see what they can build out there. Moving forward, there's just not a whole lot of information out there, so I think that's going to be the early focus this decade, and we'll see where it takes us from there. So having said all of that, here are the builds for South America. They're buying 2 fuel. They're going to launch that on their existing LV1 up to their Earth orbit base to resupply their ships there. They already have well, you know what, I'm looking at it, they have ore there, but they don't have supplies. I'll come back to that. That may need to change. But they're also building a rover and an LV2. They're going to send that out to the asteroid belt. Japan is building an orbiter. It's going to the main belt as well. And North America is building an LV2 with 2 fuel, sending that out to Mars to help resupply their ships there. And another LV2 sending a rover out to the main belt. And yeah, okay, so South America, they're not building 2 fuel. They're going to build 1 fuel, 1 supply. They've got their crewed vehicle there right now that needs to be flipped over. They won't be able to do it this turn, but they'll do it next turn. So they're going to send that up on the LV1. Initiative order this decade is South America, North America, and Japan. So we'll go ahead and do movement for Japan. I guess before that, I need to take a look around and do mandatory movement. I haven't done that yet. The only thing is here at Uranus, there is a flyby for Japan that has been moved to the flyby box. Everything else is, no more mandatory movement than that. So we'll go on to Japan. Japan has their orbiter that we talked about launching. So they're going to launch that on their existing LV1. They get a 68, that is a success. They have gotten their heliocentric modifier all the way down to 0.6. Asteroid belt is 3 away, and so that is a 2 on the transfer chart. And there's no other movement for them. North America is going to launch their 2 fuel on an LV2. 20, so that does use the rocket. That's not going to be recovered. But the supply does move. It's just going to go right over to the Mars base. The other LV2 is launching the rover towards the main belt. Get a 14, so again it's a success, but no reusing that launch vehicle. That's disappointing for them. They have a modifier of 0.8. That's also 2 years, but they used an LV2, so that's going to be there in just 1 year. There we go. Other moves for them, they're going to move their crewed vehicle on Mars over to their base. Got it with a 12. So we'll move that over. And their crewed vehicle at the Comet is going to do the same thing. 55. It will go to the base as well. That's all the movement for North America. On to South America. They are going to, let's see here. They're going to keep their reserve crew vehicle where it's at. That will have to wait till next turn to flip over. Their CV3, need to think about that for a moment. They're going to go ahead and launch their rover on an LV2 towards the main belt. They get a 91, so they do recover that rocket. So same thing as North America. It's going to be sent off onto the one box there. And then they have their they've got a fuel and a supply they're sending up to their station. So on an LV1 33, that is a success, and they do get to reuse that vehicle as well. And I think they're going to leave that crewed vehicle there. On Mars, they're going to build a base this turn with that. But before we do that, we'll move on to exploration for South America. They currently have nothing. Moving to North America, they also currently have nothing. Moving on to Japan. So that is something, I think, even though there's a base focus and a crewed vehicle focus for the South and North America, respectively, they are going to focus a little bit more on robotics just to get something out there and get a little bit more exploration done. So moving to Japan, exploration, their telescope is going to keep pointing at deep space astronomy. They need a 7. They get a 3 and a 91, and they pull it begins already, they pull a 3. So that is the final depletion of deep space astronomy. I've depleted it down to 0. Here's the roll for life, 97, no life, and looks like they won't be finding any life there this game, and then they get a politics marker. Next up is the rover on Io, needs a 11, 12, 13, 17. They got the 17, and they got a 19. Io does have radiation, but they just picked up active radiation this last research phase, so with a 19 they're okay with their malfunction rate of 13. And 2 more physics markers, and they pull a 3 and a 2. Starting off real strong here already. So that is a depletion. Depleted that down to 5. Next up is pulling a world card. Again, we're a rocky volcanic moon, and they pulled Maria, which is rocky plus 4 to rover exploration. So I think they're going to be very interested in changing out the existing card for that. And then we have a life check of 4%. 5, very close, but not quite. And then they get a politics marker. The orbiter at Saturn is going to target Titan, try to get that public mission. That's going to be a 14 that they need. They get a 66 and a 7, so just 1 biology marker. And that biology marker is a 2. A few things out here at Uranus. We've got the flyby. Flyby is going to target Umbriel Ariel Miranda. That's a 12 that they need here. So 58, no malfunction, but also just 1 engineering chit, and that chit is a 2. The before we get to the orbiter, let's see if the flyby moves on. Yes, it does for a 13, so we will move on to Neptune. And at their heliocentric modifier, that is just 1 year away. The orbiter will also target Umbriel Ariel Miranda, and that is a, let's see, 5 plus 3 is 8, minus 1 is 7, plus 4, need an 11. 39, so no malfunction, but just 1 engineering chit, and this one is 1. So that is it for Japan's exploration. Next up is production. No production this time. The South American CV3 on Mars does not want to risk flipping over before they can build their base. So next after that is trading with bases. And I forgot about that. So I'm actually going to back up. The 2 fuel that I had initially bought for South America, that was intentional. I'm going to switch that back to 2 fuel. So right now at South America's Earth orbit base is 2 fuel and 4 ore. They are going to buy here. They have the marker for 1 billion can buy 2 supplies, and that base has 1 settlement, so that's all they can buy are 2 supplies. They are going to spend $1 billion there. They're going to get 2 supplies at their base. They're going to add that just right directly to the base. So now they have 2 supply, 2 fuel, and 4 ore. And now that they've done that, they are removing the trade marker. Taking a look at what other trades there are out there. So North America's base on Mars, they can buy 2 ore for $1 billion. They've got 3 settlements, so they can do that up to 4 resources, which they will do. They will spend $2 billion and get 4 ore at their Martian base. Now they're at 4 ore, 2 fuel, and like 10 supply. So go ahead and remove the trade marker here and take that away. So that is all of the trading with bases. Let's see what's next. So for this turn, South America is not doing anything at their base in Earth orbit, but they are going to build a base on Mars. So that is a base cost of 4. The technology that South America has allows them to subtract, looking over at the sheet, 1. So it will cost them 3 supply to go ahead and build that base. They had 4 supply on that ship, so it took 3 to build the base, and then they're going to leave the other one there at the base so that they can later build a research station there. That's what they're interested in. That'll be, right now, as it stands, is 8 biology research there, so they're interested in getting that going. North America does have quite a few resources right now at their Mars base, but I think they're going to wait. They might be taking a lot of those supplies out to the asteroid belt to build a base out there. They need the fuel and supplies to flip over both of those crewed vehicles. So they're just going to wait for now and not do anything yet. And with that, that is the end of 2060. Moving on to 2061's build phase. So South America is building 2 orbiters. Going to launch those out. I had a plan for that, and I will figure that out momentarily. They're also going to spend the resources at their Earth base to flip over their crewed vehicle there. Japan is building a flyby. They are sending this flyby to Alpha Centauri. And then North America is building a rover, an orbiter, and 2 LV-2s. They're going to go out to, one of them is going to go to Jupiter, and the other is going to the asteroid belt. The orbiter is going to try to finish the Ganymede mission for them, and the rover is going to go to the main belt. So that's the plan with those. They are also spending the resources at their Mars base to flip over the 2 crewed vehicles that they've got there as well. Mandatory movement is complete. Next up is movement for Japan. They're going to launch their flyby to Alpha Centauri. They have an LV-1 they're launching it on. They get an 84, so that is successful. Their heliocentric modifier is 0.6. Alpha Centauri is 45 years away, so that is going to be, let me do the math on that, that's going to take them 27 years. So instead of putting a whole bunch of markers on it, I'm just going to dump them off in probably the 6 box, and then write a year on a piece of paper next to it and say that's the year they're going to be there. So let me do that calculation. Okay, I've written myself a note on a whiteboard. I'll change it over to a piece of paper at some point. But in 2082, after mandatory movement, it will be in that 6 box there. So that's about, I think, when it'll start doing research there, maybe somewhere around the 6 or 7 box. But I'm not going to sit there and move the heliocentric modifier each time for that one. So that is the idea for that. I'll put a piece of paper next to that so I don't forget. So that is movement for Japan for what they had on Earth. Let me take a look around. I don't think they have anything else to move at the moment. No, they do not. So moving on to North America. North America's rover just arrived to the main belt. It's going to move to Hygeia Palace. Got a 4. Their engine check modifier is 4 right now. Let me verify that. Yes, it is. So that is a failure. That rover is not going anywhere. So for that failure, they are going to pull a engineering marker, and that engineering marker is a 2. They've got another rover on Earth. They're going to launch with an LV-2, and I guess it's going right back to the main belt. So they get a 23. They can't reuse any of their rockets this decade, it seems, but it does launch, and it's heading out to the 1 box here at the asteroid belt. The other thing they need to launch is their orbiter. They have an orbiter on an LV-2, and it's going to Jupiter. Get a 62. They do get to reuse that one. Their heliocentric modifier is 0.8. Jupiter is 5 away. So 5 on 0.8 is 4, and I used an LV2, so it's going to go to 3 box here. There we go. And they also have their crewed vehicles on Mars. The CV-3 there is going to head over to the Chinese base on Phobos. I think they're going to want to do that trade at the end of the turn here. So they rolled a 24, no problem for an engine check. So that's the one underneath the 2 here, and they're going to go over there. The CV-2, I'm debating on whether or not to send that to the main belt or leave it on Mars. I think it's going to go over to the main belt. This feels like it might be a bit of a mistake. It's 2 years to get to the main belt from Mars with their heliocentric modifier. I don't know. I'm debating on whether or not I should keep them on Mars and research there, or if they need to go to the main belt. They really would like to find more information on the asteroids out there. But they also do need biology research on Mars. So, let me think about that. Yeah, I think they're going to go to the asteroid belt. I'm going to keep the CV-3 back in the Mars system for now, and maybe it can explore Mars next turn. But we're going to move the CV-2 out to asteroid belt, and it's going to take the 2 years to get out there. That is movement complete for North America. Moving to South America, they are going to launch their orbiter with 1 exploration on an LV-2. Let me make sure that's right. No, they're actually going to launch that on the LV-1. So the orbiter with 1 on the LV-1, and it's going to Neptune. So here we go. I get a 57, so that is reusable. Neptune is 11 away with the modifier of 0.8. That's going to take them 9 years. So let me put that on the 3 here. I just realized it's not on screen, but I'm putting the orbiter on the 3 box on Neptune. I'm adding +6 to it, so it'll be there at some point. The other thing they're launching is their orbiter with a 2 and a spectrometer, and it's going to go to the main belt. And this is on an LV-2. Get a 6, so it is a successful launch, but they do not keep the launch vehicle. And it's going to go out to the 1 box. I think both North and South America have seen how successful Japan has been, and they're trying to get as much research out there at the main belt as they can before Japan takes it all. The next thing we need to do is move the other 2 crew vehicles. The CV-3 at Earth is just going to move away from the base and try to get more biology research there at Earth, and they get a 63, so that's no problem. And then the other CV-3 at Mars is going to, let's see here. That CV at Mars is going to head over to Phobos. I think it's going to try to research and try to explore and get resources. We'll see, I'm not sure. But it's going to go to Phobos one way or another. And it does that with a 31. So it's going to hop on over here. They do have the initiative advantage on North America. They could try to get that fuel at the base, but they don't have a huge need for it at this point. They also have the rover at the main belt, and it's going to move. It's going to head over to Vesta. 48, not a problem. Lots of movement this year, but I think that is the end of it. So next we go on to exploration. South America, CV-3 at Earth is going to research in Earth orbit. They get 2 dice. They've got a lab, and they need a 6. Yeah, they do have +1 to their modifier now, so they need a 6 there. They do not get it. A 9 and a 10 were rolled, but they do not have a recall either. Next up, the CV-3 at Phobos needs, let's see, a 5. They only get 1 dice to do it because there is no lab. Actually, they need a 6 because that world card says +1 to crewed. So Need a 6, they got a 5 and a 64, so that is a successful exploration, and no recall. That is an engineering marker, and that is just a 1. Alright, moving on to their rover on Vesta. That needs an 8. They do not have any bonuses, so they need an 8. Here we go. Get a 2 and a 45. 45 is their recall rate, so that is recalled, but they do get to pull a marker before they leave. Let's see. They pull a 1. I do not know what's going on with the the luck here between the different factions, but that's pretty crazy. Their malfunction marker is a 2. So somewhat disappointing there. Rovers are not cheap. They were really hoping to get some more mileage out of that. North America has several things inbound right now, but nothing able to research this turn. So moving on to Japan, the telescope, I guess they need to find a new target now. I think they're going to target, let me take a look here. Yeah, they're going to target Pluto. So Pluto, where'd Pluto go? No, I take that back. They're going to target Eris. Eris is out at the scatter disk. It's a 9, so 4.5 goes to 5, plus the 4 bonus, so 9 plus the 2 for the telescope. They need an 11. They get a 10 and a 4. That's not something you see too often here. That is a malfunction. They do get to pull a physics marker for Eris, and that is a 2. And then a engineering chit for the malfunction, which is a 1. So that is that telescope removed. After that, next up will be, taking a look here, they have an orbiter on their way to the main belt, but nothing else there. The rover on Io, that's going to need that needs an 18 with all of the bonuses. So we'll see if they can get 2 pulls for that. So here we go. They get a 4 and an 88, so that is not a malfunction, and that is 2 physics markers. Let's see here, I got 2 of them, and that is a 2 and a 1, so no depletion. This has been a somewhat underwhelming turn compared to what they've had in the past. The orbiter targeting Titan, 8 plus 3 is 11, minus 1 is 10, plus 4, need a 14. There we go. Got a 5, so just 1, no malfunction. This is a biology marker. And they get a 2. So that will continue to try to get that mission out there. Got a few things out here in the outer solar system. Their orbiter at Uranus is going to target Umbriel Ariel Miranda, and that's going to need an 11. So they do not have a malfunction, just 1 chit. That chit is a 1. Next up is the flyby at Neptune. That's going to target, let's see here. They're actually a little low on engineering at this point, so they're going to target Glacial Larissa Proteus, and that's going to be a 13. 79, so no malfunction, just 1 tech marker. It is a 3, so they do get a depletion here. Go through that. Reduced it down to 5. We do have a spectrometer here, so we're going to pull 2 different world cards. These are some different ones. So these are rocky moons, and so we're looking at, we got S-class asteroid, which does not, it does actually apply. That requires a minimal gravity world, which these are. And then we've got hematite, which is for rocky. So I think they're going to choose hematite. Yeah, they'll go with hematite. Got a search for life at 3%. Nope. And a politics marker for the depletion. Engine check to move on to the Kuiper Belt. That is a success, and they will move on to the Kuiper Belt. Moving on to production, the CV3 there for South America at Phobos needs a, we're looking for ore, so the number is 4 that we're looking for. 70, no recall, and 2, so we get 2 ore for that CV. Let's put that right here. And I think that is all of the production with CVs. Next up is trading with bases. The North American CV3 is going to buy They are at, looking at their sheet here, they're at free trade with China, which means they can buy 4 resources. So let's take a look at that. So for 1 billion, they can buy 2. So they will spend 2 billion to buy 4 fuel, which is conveniently the cargo capacity of the ship. And we will remove the trade marker, not the base, just the trade marker, and add 4 fuel. Moving on to building and expanding bases, I don't think anybody is doing that. So with that, that is the end of 2061. Moving on to the build phase of 2062, South America is continuing to expand their robotic exploring fleet. They're buying an LV-2 for a rover and a probe, and also a flyby that they'll launch on their LV-1 that already exists. Moving over to Japan, they'd like to rebuild their telescope. They have an LV-1 already. And North America is building another rover to send to the main belt, and they have an LV-2 already. That is what they're building. Nothing is happening at any of the bases. Nothing needs to be resupplied. I will go and do mandatory movement and be back with movement. All right, we've got a lot that has arrived at the main belt, so it should be some stuff to do there. So first up is movement for Japan. They're going to launch their telescope up on their LV-1, which they do, and it is reused. So we'll put that up in Earth orbit. Next up, their orbiter at the main belt is moving to the main belt. 46, no problem. North America is going to launch their rover towards the main belt. This is on their LV-2. They do get that, and that is reused, so they get to keep that. And that is going to join the CV-2 in the 1 box over here. The rover that is already there for North America is heading over to Hygeia Palace. And it does that this time on a 35. They do also have their crewed vehicle on Phobos. It's going to move back to the base on Mars. Actually, no, I take that back. They're going to move just away from the base right now on Phobos. They're going to move to Phobos itself, and they're going to try to explore there this turn. So rolling a 58. That's all for North America. South America is going to stay there with that CV-3 in both CV-3s in both locations. They do have their orbiter at the main belt. So I'm going to try to move that to the main belt. They get a 100. Again, with the zeros, all the zeros, the first thought is, oh, that didn't work. They're launching their flyby on an LV-1 that they already have. That is a success and a reuse. And it's going to start at Earth. They also have their rover and probe they're launching on an LV-2. And it is going to the main belt on a 37. That is reused as well. And I'll put that over at the main belt. That was an LV-2, so that'll be in the 1 box. That is movement complete. Moving on to exploration, South America. The CV-3 at Earth. Needing a 6, they have a lab, so 2 dice, they get it. 27 is a recall. So here's for the exploration is a 1. And for the recall is a 3. So they will flip over, and next turn they'll head back to their base. Next is the flyby. It's going to target the moon. It needs a 4. An 8 and a 15, so that is a malfunction. It does not leave the Earth system, and we will pull a... they pulled a 5. That would have been nice for the depletion there, but alas, it is not meant to be. The CV-3 on Phobos is going to attempt to explore. It needs a 5. They get the 4 and a 64, so that went as well as it possibly could have. No recall, and they do pull a marker, and that is a 2. The orbiter over at the main belt is going to target Ceres. That needs a 6. Yep, needs a 6. Got a 1 and a 65, so that is a biology marker. No malfunction, and it is a 2. Just cannot get that depletion. And that is all for South America. Moving on to North America. The CV-3 at Phobos is going to explore there, and it's going to be a 4 plus a 1 plus a 1, 6, plus 2 for their tech. That's 8. So here we go. Got the 1 and a 100, so no recall. They do get the engineering pull, and that is a 2. The rover on Hygeia Palace needs an 8. It gets a 3 and a 50, so no recall, and they do get their engineering tech. And that is a 2. Moving on now to Japan, the telescope is continuing to target Eris. That's a 11 that they need. So 83 and a 5, just 1, and it is a physics marker. I'm now concerned that I might have pulled an engineering marker for that last time, but I'm not sure about that. But this is a physics marker. It is a 1. That is it for the telescope. Moving down the line here, we've got their orbiter at the main belt. It's going to target the main belt, and it needs a 7. Got the 2 and the 64. That is a success. And they pull a 1. Next up is the rover on Io. It needs an 18. They get that. And that is, what is that? Physics? That is physics. So here's 2 more physics. I got a 1 and a 1. And then moving on to the orbiter at Saturn, going to target Titan. Let's see, needing a 14 there. 17 and an 83, so just 1. And that 1 is a 2. I think this is the longest Japan has gone with no depletion. The orbiter, targeting Umbriel Ariel Miranda. That is an 11. And they got the 11 and a 50, so that's 2 engineering markers. And that is a, let's see here, a 2 and a 5. So that is a depletion. It's been reduced down to 4, drawing a world card. This world card is Water Ice. Those are icy rocky moons, so this does apply. It adds bonus for Orbiter and Search for Life, and is just really good in general, so they're going to keep that there. Doing a Search for Life, which is now at 8% because of the world card. They get a 76, nope, and then they draw a politics marker. And finally, the flyby at the Kuiper Belt is going to target the Kuiper Belt, needing a 14. Nope, just the 1. It's a physics marker, and that physics marker is a 2. We'll do an engine check to see if it goes on to the scattered disk. It does. It's 3 years away, but with their engine tech, that turns into a 2. Next is produce with CVs. The CV3 for South America will try to produce on Phobos, or again, needs a 4. No recall, and they get their 4. So 2 more ore there. I feel like this crewed vehicle has really been pushing its luck here, exploring and getting resources, and it has really paid off. That is all of the production. Moving on to trading with bases, none of that. And building and expanding bases, yep, none of that is happening either. So that is the end of 2062. Moving on to the 2063 build phase, South America is going to build a flyby to get more research. They're also building 2 supply and a fuel to send off to their Mars base. They do have an LV-1 and an LV-2 already. This will leave them with 4 billion. Japan can't build any more robotic explorers. They are at their limit, and they have quite a bit of money. So they're just going to go ahead and build their CV4 that they plan on building bases with in the future, collecting resources. So they're going to build the Hikawa and spend 19 billion to do it, and buy the LV4 as well. They still have $9 billion left over. They've got money that they kind of didn't know what to do with because, again, they don't have they can't build any more robots right now, so that's their plan. And then over here with North America, they're going to build another crewed vehicle as well. They're going to build the Discovery, and they're going to send that off to the main belt and just try to get as much research as possible. So they do also have an LV2, and this leaves them with just $1 billion. They're not going to be able to build their base at the main belt this year, so that they figured that they'll just try to get more research. I took a look to see what techs they're all hoping to get, and the focus is going to shift a little bit here. North America really wants engineering research, whereas the other two actually want biology at this point. Even Japan. Japan is interested in improving their exploration, their recall, and most importantly for them, they want CV range of 3, which requires a bit of biology research as well. So I think that'll be the focus moving forward for the middle part of the decade. Mandatory moves have been completed. Moving on to movement for Japan. They're going to go ahead and launch their CV4. They're going to send the Hikawa to Mars. That seems like the right thing to do here. So they're either going to look for biology research or they're going to mine. Either way, I think they want to do that at Mars right now. They could feasibly put a base on Mars right now. I think their goal might be to skip Mars if possible and just jump over to the main belt with their first base. I don't think they want to build a whole lot of bases, so they want to pick and choose pretty carefully where they're going. So I think everybody, North America, South America, Japan, they're very interested to see what can be found at the main belt, as there are a lot of world cards left to be pulled. But go ahead and move with them. They get a 60. This is on their LV4, so they do get to keep that. They're very excited to see that. And then the Hikawa is going out to Mars, and that'll be in the 1 box. That is all the movement for Japan. Next up is North America. They're going to launch their CV2, the Discovery, out towards the main belt. And this is on their LV2. 86, so they get to reuse that as well. That's a distance of 3 away, so that will take 2 years. North America's got a few other things. They've got a rover and a CV2 already at the main belt, so we need to move those. The rover is going to move to Vesta. Actually, no, the rover is going to move to Ceres. Let's do that. 49, so that is a success. And the crew vehicle is going to move to Vesta. And that is a success. I did skip right by it, but the CV3 that North America has on Phobos is going to stay there. I think they're going to do research there next turn. So after that, we are moving on to South America. They're going to move their reserved vehicle in Earth orbit or over to their base. 54. So that'll hop on over. They have their supplies. They've got 2 supplies and a fuel on Earth that they're launching on an LV2 out to Mars. There we go. 45. They get to keep that LV2, and I'm just going to move those resources over. They also have a flyby. They're going to launch that on their LV1. 59. Another successful reuse there. And we'll just move here to the flyby. Somebody at some point would like to finish exploring the moon, so they'll try to do that. Their CV3 over on Phobos is going to move to Mars, not to the base, but to Mars itself. They're going to try to research there, or explore. There we go. 75. So that's going to move over here to the surface. Eventually they will bring that ore to the base. It's not crucially important at the moment, but they're going to just move that and do as much exploration as they can. They have their rover that has reached the main belt, and it's going to move over to Ceres. Here's the engine check for that. 46, no problem. And that concludes all of the movement. On to exploration, starting with South America. They've got their flyby at Earth. It's going to target the moon. Needing a 4. Get an 8 and a 77. Nothing happens. We will roll for their move onto Mars. 2. That is another failure. We'll draw for an engineering marker there. It is a 5, so do get some research out of that. The crewed vehicle on Mars has a 3. Mars is a 3. They've got a +1 bonus, so they need a 7. Get a 10 and a 96, so nothing happens there. Moving on to the main belt, the orbiter is going to target the main belt. Looking for a 3 there. They do not get the 3. They do get a malfunction, so they will pull an engineering marker for that. That is a 2. The probe at Ceres needs a 14. They get the 4, so they get 2 biology markers for that. And the first one is a 5. This is going much better for South America this decade, or this year alone. And then the second one is a 3. So they only get 1 depletion, but they got a lot of biology out of that. Exploration has been reduced to 4. The probe has been expended. We will search for... before we search for life, we draw a world card. So let me get those. Ceres is an icy dwarf planet with minimal gravity. No spectrometer, so we just pull 1. And this is cratered surface, which is a rocky or icy surface. It's pretty not great when it comes to resources, but it does have good statistics here or it's got a +2 for rover exploration, so both them and North America will appreciate that. I'll fix that a little bit better in a moment. So they'll go ahead and take it. They'll try to hope for something better. The North American rover there does have a spectrometer, so they'll get to pull 2 if they get a depletion. But for now, they will keep cratered surface. The search for life there is 5%. They get a 73, no life, but they do get a politics marker for that. Okay, that is the end of the South American exploration turn. Might be the most successful year they've had, I think, so far this game, so that was quite a bit of research. Moving on to North America. They have, looking around here, they've got their CV3 on Phobos. 4 + 1 + 1 for the card, +2 for their technology. So they need an 8 there. They get a 9, so nothing, and a 100, so no recall, no exploration, nothing. Moving on to the rover. Let's see, they have something at every location at the main belt except for the main belt itself. So we'll start with the rover on Ceres. That rover needs a 10, 4 + 4 + 2 for the world card, so that's automatic. So just rolling for malfunction, 67, no malfunction. They get a biology marker, and that is a 2. So no depletion quite yet for them. Moving on to the rover at Hygeia Palace, that is going to need an 8. Get a 3 and a 96, so that is a success, no malfunction. And the engineering they pull here is a 1. And then finally, the crew vehicle at Vesta, that's going to need a 10, so that is automatic. 46, their recall rate is 40, so no recall. That is a success, and they're pulling just a 1. So not the greatest of pulls here, but they didn't lose anything, so they'll get to try that all again next year. North America has nothing else out there yet. The orbiter that they've got inbound to Jupiter will be there next year. So we'll move on to Japan. Their telescope will point at Europa. That's 3.5 rounded to 4 + 2 + 2. Nope, sorry, I'm doing my math wrong here. 3.5 rounds to 4 + 2 for the telescope is 6, plus their 4 bonus. That is automatic with the telescope. So they will pull something, but let's see if they have a malfunction. 83, no malfunction, and that is a biology marker. And they get a 1. Moving on to, let's see here, their CV4 is not at Mars yet, so we've got the orbiter at the main belt. It's going to point at Ceres. It needs a 9. It does get the 9, no malfunction, or it gets a 4 rather, and no malfunction. And they just get a 1. Nothing else at the main belt. They do have their rover at Io, needing an 18 still. Get a 7 and a 32. That is no malfunction, and 2 physics over there. So they get a 3 and a 5. Wow, big big exploration for them there. Physics is probably the one they need the least at the moment, but you know, always exciting to pull 8 in one go. Io is a rocky volcanic moon. We have no spectrometer there, so just one world card, and that world card is ridged terrain. So that's it's definitely better for resource production than the Maria that's there, but I think Japan's going to be interested to keep that world card, which is giving them such a bonus to their rover exploration. The orbiter at Saturn, pointing at Titan, needing a 14. They get a 10 and an 8. Wow. So only one marker, and that is a failure. That is a malfunction. So that'll be the last chance here they have to get that mission, and they do not get it with a 2. So I think they'll be interested to send something back out to Saturn now that they've freed up a robotic explorer spot. The engineering for the malfunction is a 3, so I will go remove that from the board. And then moving on after that, they do have a few things out in the outer planets. The orbiter over here at Uranus is going to point at Umbriel Ariel Miranda. That is going to be, let's see, 4 plus 3 is 7, minus the 1 is 6, plus 2 for the orbiter moves it to 8, that's from the world card, and then plus 4 for their bonus, so that is a 12. They get a 10 and an 87, so just one engineering marker, no malfunction, and get a 1. And then finally, they've got their flyby at the scattered disk. That's going to point at Eris, and that needs a 15. They get the 15, or they get 2, so 2 physics, no malfunction, and they get a 2, and they get a 2. So no depletion there. And with that, that is the end of exploration for Japan. Okay, we've got no production this turn. We're not trading with any bases, and nobody is expanding any bases either. Once the South Americans bring their ore to their Martian base, and once the North Americans bring that fuel to their Martian base, I think we'll see some expansion, but nothing at the moment. So that is it for 2063. Build phase for 2064. South America's not buying anything. They've got $4 billion. I think they're going to just sit on that at the moment. They do have an LV-1 and an LV-2. They are going to use their supply and fuel at their Earth base to resupply the crew vehicle there. Japan's going to rebuild the orbiter that they lost at Saturn last turn and launch that for 4. They've got $5 billion remaining. North America's not doing anything this turn. They have only $1 billion left right now. Mandatory movement has been completed. Moving on to Japan. They're going to launch their orbiter on an LV-1. They have an LV-1 and an LV-4, but as much as they would like to launch it on the LV-4, I think they're going to stick to the LV-1 so that they don't chance losing that 4 for later. So here we go. Get an 85. They could have done it, but that's all right. With their modifier of 0.6, that's going to take 4 years to get out to Saturn. Other movement for them, they have their CV4 at Mars. Their engine check now is 3%, so 3% minus the 4 from the CV4 is less than 1. So they don't even have to roll for that anymore, which is nice. So it's just going to move. Oh, the whole planet's moving. They're just going to move over to Mars. After that, let's take a look around here. I think that's everything for Japan movement-wise. Yep, that is everything. So moving on to North America. The only thing for them to move is their orbiter at Jupiter, and it's going to move into Jupiter orbit. And it gets a 67. And then South America, their CV3 at Earth will just move away, try to explore Earth orbit. They get a 9, so that is fine. I'll move here. The crewed vehicle on Mars is going to stay there and explore. And possibly, oh, they can't mine, so they'll explore, I think, during their exploration phase. And I'm looking around, and I don't see anything else that needs to move, so that is all for movement. On to exploration. The South American crewed vehicle that we just moved needs a 5. They do have a bonus of 1, so it needs a 6. They have a lab, so 2 dice. Get the 4, no recall, so 1 biology marker for them. That is a 2. Next up for South America. Their crewed vehicle at Mars will search at Mars, needing a 7. Get a 2 and a 98, so that is another success. Another biology marker, and it is another 2. The rover on Ceres, needing an 11. 64, no malfunction. A 9, so just the 1 biology marker. And that is a 1. So no depletions, but, no malfunctions or recalls, so they'll be good to go next year. The North American ship on Phobos will explore there, needing a 8. They need an 8, 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus their modifier of 2. They get a 3 and a 38. Their recall is 40, so that is recalled. They do get engineering for the exploration, though, and that is a 2. And then they also get biology for the recall, and that is a 1. So now that ship will likely head over to Mars to resupply. Mars has 8 supply right now, and they're bringing in fuel, so next 2 years from now they'll be able to resupply that. Okay, over to the main belt. The rover needs a 10. They have no modifier to their robotic explorers, but there's 4 plus 4 plus 2, so that's automatic. Checking for malfunction. 54, no malfunction. Ceres is biology, and they pull a 1. Next up is the rover on Hygeia Palace. That's going to be an 8. They get a 4 and a 57, no malfunction. And reaching around here for engineering, and it's just a 1. And lastly, the CV at Vesta. That needs a 10. So checking for recall, 28, that is a recall. So they will get engineering for the exploration, which is another 1. And then a biology for the recall, which is a 1. Not a whole lot of big numbers there for them this turn, but they have most of their stuff there still, and they've got a CV inbound, so I'll flip over that CV2 at Vesta. The orbiter at Jupiter is going to target Ganymede, needs a 7. Gets the 7 and a 60, no malfunction. That is a physics, and that is a 2. So that's where their mission is at, but they did not get the depletion, so nothing for that mission quite yet. And on to Japan, their telescope targeting Europa. Let's see, I should just have this memorized by now, but I think they need a 10. Yep, 4 for the moon, 2 for the telescope, 4 for the bonus, so just a 10 needed. Wow, they rolled a 1, so that is another malfunction. That's 2 now, I think, for that telescope this decade, but it is a successful exploration, and they pull a 1 for that. And then an engineering for the malfunction is a 3. They do have $5 billion left, so they will probably continue to rebuild this telescope, or I guess one more time they'll try to rebuild it. It really does provide quite a bit of science. The CV4 on Mars is going to explore Mars, needing a 9. They get a 7 and a 25. That is a recall, but it is also a successful exploration. The exploration is a 1, and the recall is a 3. So we'll flip that over. They're going to have to head back to Earth. This was the danger of sending crew vehicles out. They've got no bases out there to resupply, and they have a pretty high recall rate with no exploration bonuses. So it's kind of the opposite for Japan for crewed vehicles compared to what they have for robotic explorers. But just trying to get some biology. Biology is kind of their focus at the moment, in addition to engineering. So that'll head back to Earth next turn. Heading out to the main belt, the orbiter at the main belt is going to target Ceres, and that's going to need a 5 plus 4, so needs a 9. Get a 1 and a 48, that is a success, and they get just a 1 for that exploration. Let's see, that's all they've got at the main belt. Heading on to their rover at Io. Let's see, that's going to need a 17 now that they have depleted that previously. So here we go. They get the 1 and a 21. They do have radiation protection, so that is not a malfunction. And they get two physics markers for that. And those two are a 5 and a 1. So that is another depletion out there at Io. Let's see, Io has been depleted. Pulling a world card. Got impact basins. It is rocky, so that could apply. It does have a rover bonus. It is better for some resources, but not others. Well, it's better for supply, but typically I don't think you'll use Io for supply very often. So they're going to keep the Maria that is already there. A search for life of 4%. 74, nope. And they do get a politics marker. The orbiter targeting Umbriel Ariel Miranda needing a 12. They get a 30 and an 8, so just one engineering. And that is a 1. And then they've got their flyby at the scattered disk. This will be the final turn for it. So we're going to point at Eris. That's going to be a 16. So here we go. We get an 8 and a 97, so just one physics. And that is a 1. I don't know if I did this before or not. So I think the last time the North Americans had a ship here, I just took it away. I think I'll still do the engine check. It is in a flyby box, so they'll do an engine check. It won't go anywhere, but if they fail the engine check, they would get an engineering marker. So if I'm doing that wrong, let me know. So the engine check to move on. 44, that is a success, but again, it's not going to anywhere in particular, and that flyby will be finished. All right, no CVs are producing anything. We're not trading with any bases. Still no base expansion. That might change next turn when the North Americans bring their supplies back to their Martian base. We'll see. But that is it for 2064. Moving on now to 2065. The only thing being bought here is Japan is buying their telescope once again. They have $2 billion remaining. Mandatory movement is completed. Japan will launch their telescope on their LV-1. You get a 77 that is reusable. And the telescope once again goes back up to Earth. Let's see, other movement. No other movement is... oh, that's not true. The CV4 here for Japan at Mars is going to come back to Earth. That's going to take 1 year. But I think that is it for movement for Japan. Moving on now to North America. They have nothing to launch. They are going to move their reserved CV3 that's at Phobos. That's going to move back to their Mars base. So here we go. Get a 15. That's fine. So we'll just move that on back. And those resources will go into the pool here at their base. So right now they've got 4 ore, 8 supply, and 4 fuel. The CV2 that's currently at Vesta is going to try to get back to Mars. Roll a 44, so I'll move that back to Mars. Before I walk over to that part of the table, though, the other CV2 that's at the main belt is going to try to move to Vesta and take its spot with a 48. So those are basically going to switch spots. The reserved one heading back to Mars. That's all the movement for North America, and it looks like South America does not have any movement either. So we'll move on to exploration with South America. The CV3 at Earth will explore Earth, needing a 6. They get it, no recall, and they get a 5. So there's a 5. They got the depletion there. For Earth, there's no world card, there's no search for life, so all we need to do is flip this over to 0. So there's no more exploration at Earth, and they will pull a politics marker for that. So that crewed vehicle will be free to go probably to the moon and try to finish that. We'll see what they do next turn. Their CV3, it's a CV3, right? Yeah, their CV3 at Mars will explore Mars, and they need a 7. They get a 5 and a 33. That is a recall, but also successful. So for the exploration, that is a 2. And for the recall, that is a 2. So we'll go over there and flip it over. The plan for that then next turn will be to move over to the base and resupply. They do have... Oh, they can't do that because they don't have any... they're going to go to the base and drop the ore off, but they do not have the supply station, there we go, that they need to resupply there. So it'll either sit there and they'll try to build that, or it'll have to head back to Earth. But either way, it's reserved, and now we'll figure out what to do with that next turn. The rover on Ceres needs an 11. No malfunction, 1 exploration, and that is a 1. And I think that is all for South America. Moving on to North America. They have their, they've got nothing at Mars right now, so they're going to move out to the main belt. We've got a rover at Ceres that's going to need a 10. Malfunction roll is okay, no malfunction. And they will pull a 3. They do get a depletion, and they have a spectrometer on that rover, so they're going to get to pull 2 world cards here. Ceres is icy with minimal gravity. So let's see what we can pull here. Try to get them both out of the bag here. So the first one is volcanoes, or the top one here is volcanoes. That does not apply. The M-class asteroid is for rocky with minimal gravity, so that does not apply either. So neither of those are usable. They're going to keep cratered surface. So, the cratered surface will continue to help with the rover exploration, but that doesn't really make it a great location for a base at the moment. So moving on to the rover at Hygeia Palace, that's going to need an 8. They do get that. It is a 38. That their malfunction rate right now is 27, so that is fine. They get engineering for the exploration. That is a 2. I also just realized I skipped way too fast on the series one. So after the world card, we need to do a search for life, and that is 5%. Here's that. 33, nope. And they do get a politics marker for the depletion back on Ceres. Over to Vesta with the crewed vehicle. That's going to be a 10 with their bonus automatic, so just need to do a recall check. 66, no recall. That's another engineering marker for them. And this one is a 1. So they got 1 depletion, but they'd like to get more of them. Everybody is really hoping to get more information on those asteroids before the end of the decade. The orbiter at Jupiter, targeting Ganymede, needing a 7. They get a 3 and a 51. That is a success. And they have pulled a 1. And I think that's everything that North America has right now. So moving on to Japan, their telescope will continue to target Europa. So that's going to be a 10. Rolling for malfunction, 69. So that is a success. And the biology marker they pull is a 1. Alright, next for Japan, moving outward from Earth, their orbiter at the main belt will target Ceres, needing an 8. Get a 5 and a 17. That is a success. And the biology they pull is a 1. On Io, now needing a 16. They do get the 3, no malfunction, so 2 more physics for them. They are really doing quite well out there at Io. They got 2 2s. Let me get these here. 2 2s, so no depletion. But I don't know that they're even that bothered by not getting a depletion. It's still... they're just going to keep on racking up physics research there with that 1 rover. And continuing to target Umbriel Ariel Miranda, needing a 12 with the orbiter. They do get the 1. They get a 13. That is their malfunction rate, 13, so that has failed. But they do get to pull 2 engineering markers for the exploration, and then 1 more for the malfunction. So for the exploration, they pull a 1, and they pull a 2, so no depletion. And then for the malfunction of the orbiter is another 2. So that is it for that orbiter. And I can stop moving this camera around for a few years at least, until the South American orbiter makes it all the way out to Neptune. Nobody's doing any production with CVs. There's no trading. The North Americans are going to expand their Mars base. So right now that's a look at what they've got there. I'm setting aside the 2 supply and 2 fuel here. They have 2 ships that they're going to have to resupply coming in. So holding that aside, they could build more settlements, but that puts them a little low on fuel going forward. There are still several years left in the decade. I think instead they're going to upgrade their small mining station to a large mining station. I don't know that that's necessarily the most effective use of their resources. It only gets them 1 more supply during the economics phase, but it does also help with victory points, so I think that's what they're going to do. So it's going to take 2 ore and 2 supply, and they're going to flip that over to a large mining station. They are also at 3 settlements, so that gives them another resource during the production phase, or during the economics phase, I should say. So that is going to be a 10 that they get there this time around, if everything else holds the same. And that concludes 2065. Nobody's building anything in the build phase, though North America did pay those resources to flip over the CV3 there. So we'll move on to mandatory movement. Mandatory movement has been completed. Movement with Japan. They're going to move their Crew Vehicle 4 back down to the surface of Earth. And they do have $2 billion left, so they'll probably pay to resupply that and launch that again next year. Looking around, I think that's all for Japan at the moment. Next up, North America. They do have their CV3 at Mars. They're going to move that back out to Phobos. 59, so that will move back to the moon. I think that's all for North America. They're happy with where everything else is at. And South America, they're going to move their crew vehicle on Mars. All right, we talked about this last year. I need to figure out where that's going. Yeah, okay, so they're going to move to their Mars, or I need to roll for that. Let's do that first. Yep, no problem. They're going to move to their Mars base. They're going to dump the ore off there. They have 4 of it. I'll show this during the base expansion part, but they do right now have 4 ore, 3 supply, and a fuel. So if they do have $4 billion left, as well as an LV1 and an LV2. So they're going to next turn send supplies from Earth to Mars. And I say supplies, they're sending fuel from Earth to Mars. And they're going to build a supply station. They're going to upgrade that to a large supply station 2 years, in 2 years. And they're also going to build a small research station. They do have the resources to do all of that, as well as resupply the ship there in 2 years once they do build that large supply station. So it's just going to hang out there, and they're going to, I think that's just what they're going to do. They're going to expand that base. Okay, so that's all for movement. Exploration, South America, the CV3. Oh, I forgot to move that. Okay, backing up a little bit. That CV3 is not staying there because they are done with research on Earth. So they're going to move out to the moon. They get a 9. That's fine. Okay, now they're going to explore. They're going to explore on the moon there. They need a 6. They get the 3. That's fine. No recall. So 1 engineering marker for that, and that is a 2. And then let's see if there's anything else. Yes, they have their rover out at Ceres, needing a 10, and rolling for a recall, 37. Or not recall, for malfunction. Their rate is 27, so that's fine. And they get a 2. Next up for them is nothing. All right, moving on to North America. The crewed vehicle at Phobos needs an 8. They get a 4, no recall, so they'll go ahead and explore that. There's not a whole lot of engineering chits left here. They pull a 3, so they do get the final depletion there on Phobos. So we'll go through the depletion here. Alright, I've reduced that down to 0. Phobos is let's see here, where are they at? I think it's rocky, right? Yeah, rocky moons with minimal gravity. So they pull Maria. So let me think about that. It looks like they're going to probably... I think they're going to change it out. I think they're going to keep Maria. It doesn't really matter too much, but Maria does provide a little bit more ore, and if anybody's going to build a base on Phobos, I don't think anybody will, but the ore will be a little bit better with the Maria than the chasms. So we'll flip that out. Search for life is 2%. No life, and they do get their politics marker for that depletion. Alright, the rover on Ceres is going to need a 9. They get the 9, and no malfunction, so that is a biology. And they get a 3, another depletion. Starting strong here for North America. They, let's see, they do have a spectrometer, so 2 world cards. Ceres, again, is icy with minimal gravity. And so, let's see what we've pulled here. Alright, so I've got frozen methane and escarpments. So let me take a look at them and figure out which one to apply. I think it'll be one of them. I think they're going to go with the frozen methane. I don't know, neither of them are fantastic really, but the frozen methane will be a decent source of fuel in the asteroid belt if anybody's interested in that. And the spectrometer bonus does help the rover a little bit, not as much as the rover bonus currently, but I think the frozen methane is going to be a little bit better card for that. Checking for life, 5%, 83, nope, and another politics marker. The rover on Hygeia Palace needing an 8. They get a 10 and an 88. Nothing happens there. And the crewed vehicle on Vesta is automatic, rolling for recall. 22, that is a recall. So they are going to pull a... There's only 2 chits here left, so I'm trying to shuffle them as well as I can. Sorry. It's just hard to reach in here into this bucket with only 2. All right, we've got 3. They did get a depletion. So we'll go through that. Before I do that, they're going to actually pull the biology marker for the recall, and that is a 2. And Vesta is a rocky asteroid, so pulling a single world card for that, and that is mixed ice, but that does not apply. So we will put that back in the bag. Searching for life, Vesta has a 3% chance. Nope. And a politics marker. The orbiter at Jupiter targeting Ganymede needing a 7. They got a 9 and a 21, so that is a malfunction. That is no exploration. So they're going to pull the last engineering marker for the malfunction, and that is a 2. Moving on now to Japan, their telescope pointing at Europa again. It's a 10 that they needed, so that's automatic, and then 71, no failure. And they get a 1. The orbiter at the main belt will target the main belt, needing a 7. They get it with a 2, and I need to refill the engineering pool. So after adding all of those up, Japan is in the lead, but it's not nearly the landslide it has been like the last decade. North America so far has collected 23, Japan 29, and South America 20. Alright, so the engineering chit they pull is a 1. And then, let's see here, they have their rover on Io. Let's see if it continues to single-handedly get them all of their physics research. They need a 16. Get a 2 and a 43, so 2 more, no malfunction. And it is a 3 and a 2, another depletion out on Io. Let's see what world card they pull. They get water ice. That's for icy worlds, which Io is not. So nothing there. They need to do a life check of 4%. 36, nope. And a politics marker. That's all for exploration. Moving on to production. The North American CV on Phobos is going to try to mine for fuel. I know that's not the most efficient there, but that is what they need the most of. So the number they're looking for is a 2. Or really, they're looking for a 1, but so 41, that is not a recall. The 4, though, only gives them 1 fuel. But it's good that they did not recall. That probably would not have been worth it had they done that, but they do collect the 1 fuel for that. That is it for production. No trading with bases. We are going to expand the base at South America, their Mars base. So they're building the small research station and the small supply station. That's going to cost 2 ore, 1 supply, and 1 fuel. And that will conclude 2066. Moving on now to 2067. In the build phase, South America is going to buy 3 fuel and send that off to Mars. Japan's going to resupply their CV2 for $2 billion, and North America is going to buy 1 ore for $1 billion. So this is everybody's money except for South America. They have $1 billion remaining. Mandatory moves have been completed. Japan is going to relaunch their CV4 on their LV4. They get an 82, so that is reusable, and that is heading off to Mars again. And that is all of the movement for Japan. Let's see, North America. They're going to launch the 1 ore they just bought to Mars. They do have an LV2. That is a success and reusable, so that 1 ore is just getting added to the Mars base. Other movement for them, they're going to move the reserved CV that's at Mars over to the base, and they're going to move the reserved CV at Vesta back towards Mars. Here's for the one already at Mars, that is a 14, and I'll just go ahead and roll for the one at Vesta, that's a 20. So they're going to move to where they need to go. There's no other movement for North America. South America is keeping their CVs where they're at. They are launching their 3 fuel out to Mars on an LV2. And that is a success. So we will just add that here to their base on Mars. Time for exploration. CV3 for South America on the moon is going to explore there. They need a 6. They get 2 dice. They get it. They do not have a recall, so here we go. They get a 5. So that is the final depletion on the moon. I'll go ahead and flip that over. They need to, if I can flip it, they need to draw a world card. The moon is rocky, so let's see what we get here. They pull impact basins. So either they keep impact basins or they replace it with impact basins. So I guess they'll keep impact basins. The life check there is 2%. Well, it's 77. Nope. And they get a politics marker. So the entire Earth system now is depleted. I don't think there's anything really worth going to the moon much for at this point for any of the factions. It's 3 ore, 2 supply, 2 fuel, and 4 research. I think once the CV3 leaves the moon there, other than maybe to stop by and mine a little bit of ore if necessary, I don't think we're going to see anybody visit the moon too much at this point. The rover on Ceres needing a 7. Got a 10 and a 62, so nothing happens there. And that is all for South America. They have their orbiter inbound to Neptune. It is 4 years away. The North American rover at Ceres is going to explore there. They need a 7. They get a 1 and a 65. That is a success. I'm almost out of biology markers here, but they did get a 5. So that is a depletion. They do have a spectrometer, so they'll be getting to choose between 2 more world cards. And those 2 world cards will be, let's see what we got. pulled the same card twice. And it is not a very interesting one. Cratered Surface. That's a bonus for rover exploration, but pretty mediocre for resources beyond that. So they will keep the frozen methane. They've got a life check there of, I believe, 5%. Yep, 5%. They get a 3. They have found signs of life. So that nets them 2 biology tokens. They are the last 2 in the bucket, 2 2s, a victory token, and a politics marker. And then I do need to add the life marker, or the signs of life marker to series. And finally, they do get the politics marker for the depletion itself. All right, next is the rover at Hygeia Palace, needing an 8. They get the 8. They also get an 11, so that is a malfunction. So first, the exploration, that is a 2. And then for the malfunction, that is a 1. And that rover is removed. So all 3 factions have sent quite a bit out here, and we still don't really know a whole lot about Hygeia Palace or Vesta. And the world card at the main belt is not awful, but there are better ones out there. So we'll see. The asteroid belt and its specific asteroids are probably still going to be something that everybody needs to jump to in order to expand out towards Jupiter. But there's nothing out there that's really like a must-build location. On to Japan, their telescope targeting Europa again, needing a 10. So just the malfunction check of 58, no malfunction. I am out of biology markers, so I need to add them up now. After adding them all up, so far North America's got 22 biology, Japan 19, and South America 31. Alright, the biology for Europa is a 2 for Japan. The orbiter at the main belt is going to target Hygeia Palace. It's going to need an 8. Gets a 6, so that is a success. And they pull a 2. Next up, rover on Io. Needs a 15 now. And they do get 2 of them. So 2 physics markers here. And those 2 are a 1 and a 5. Flip over the... Can't flip it over, sorry. They're upside down, but you get the idea. 5 and a 1. So yet another depletion for Japan on Io. It's very impressive what they've been able to manage to do with just that one rover there on Io. The world card they pick is Subterranean Water. That is for icy planets or worlds, though, so that does not apply. Do a life check. Should know this by now, but yep, 4% for Io. 40, no life, and then they do get another politics marker. Moving on to production, the North American CV3 is going to try again to mine fuel at Phobos. They get a 2 and a 94. That worked out quite well for them. No recall, and they do get to add 2 more fuel. So that's quite handy. Yeah, that's nice. That's it for production. No trading, but we are going to expand bases here. South America is going to expand their Martian base. They're going to spend the 2 ore and 2 fuel to create a, can't flip it over here, but it is a large supply station now at Mars. And then for North America, and they're not doing anything right now, but they do have quite a few supplies at their Mars base. I keep saying supplies, I mean resources, but they do have quite a few there. They do want to build a small spaceport by the time this decade is over, but they need the fuel that's there right now to resupply the CV that's there. That CV that keeps mining fuel on Phobos will bring it over by the end of the decade, and they will get that spaceport up soon enough. And so with that, that concludes 2067. Moving on now to 2068, nobody's got any money really to buy anything. Both the North and South Americans are going to resupply the crewed vehicles they've got on Mars. Each of them is now able to do that, so that's going to cost 1 fuel and 1 supply for both of them. And so that leaves at the North American Martian base 3 ore, 4 supply, and 2 fuel. And at the South American base, just 1 supply. Mandatory movement has been completed. The Japanese CV-4 is going to go back to Mars, the Hikawa here, and it's going to sit there and explore, I think is what it's going to do. Or it might get supplies, or maybe both. We'll have to see. But that is the only move. No, that is not the only move. The orbiter at Saturn also got to Saturn, so we'll do an engine check. 16, it's going to move into orbit here at Saturn. Moving on now to North America, their CV-2 is going to move back out to the main belt. This is the CV-2 that's currently at the Martian base. Gets a 74, no problem. And that is all for them. South America, the CV-3 at the moon is going to move to Mars. No problem with the engine check. It will be 1 year away. And then the CV-3 that is currently at Mars, it's just going to move off the base. It's going to stay at Mars and do some research. And that is all of the movement. All right, South America, the CV-3 at Mars needs a 7. They get a 4 and a 47. That is fine, no recall. And they pull a 1. Next up for South America, the rover at Ceres, now needing a 6. They have a 10, so nothing happens there. That is currently all for South America. North America only has their rover at the moment at Ceres. It needs a 6. Gets a 4 and a 30, so that is fine. It gets 1 biology marker for that, and that is a 2. And that is it for North America. Moving on now to Japan. Their telescope is going to, let's see, yep, it's going to continue to point at Europa. Needing a 10 still, 25, that is fine. And they get a 1. The CV-4 at Mars needs a 9. Does get that. Their recall rate is 45. They just rolled a 44, so that is a recall. But first up is the exploration. That is a 2. And then for the recall, that is a 2. The main belt orbiter targeting Hygeia Pallas, that is going to need an 8. They get a 9, so nothing there. The rover on Io, now needing a 14. Just a 7, so just 1. They did not have a malfunction. And they get a 2. And lastly, the orbiter at Saturn is targeting Titan, and it's going to need a 14. 7 and 63, and that's just 1 biology, and that is a 2. Moving on to production, North America is just going to keep trying to get fuel there on Phobos. So here we go. Get a 51, no recall, and a 4. So that is another fuel. That is it for production. We've got no trading and no base expansion this turn. So that is the end of 2068. Moving on now to 2069. Nobody is buying anything. Let's see, nobody is resupplying anything. So we'll move right on to mandatory movement. Movement for Japan. Their CV-4 is going to come on back to Earth. And that is all of their movement. North America, they've got their CV at Mars. It needs to go back to the base. That rolled outside the box, but that is a 19. That's fine. So we'll move back to there. And the CV-3 that's currently on Phobos is going to do the same. It's going to move back to the base now. And a 98. Actually, instead of going to the base, I ended up moving it just to Mars. They're going to do some research on Mars before going back to the base. And that is all of the movement for North America. South America, they're going to keep their CV-3 on Mars where it's at, and they're going to bring their other CV-3 over to Mars as well. So here we go. Get a 49, so it's just going to sit on Mars. Oh. Mars really likes to move pretty easily here. So it's just going to sit there on Mars, and we're going to see some exploration by, I think, everybody there. And that is all the movement. moving on to exploration. So we'll do those CV3s on Mars for South America. We'll do the one in the middle there first. So they need a 7 on 1 dice. They get a 5 and no recall. And they pull a 1. And then next, the one with the lab there needs an 8. They do get that, and again, no recall. And they get a 2. The rover on Ceres needs a 6. They get a 7, so nothing there. 37, that is not a malfunction, and that is it for South America. Moving on now to North America, their CV on Mars is going to need a 9. They get that, no recall, and they get a 1. Next up for North America is their rover at Ceres. It's going to need, a 6. They get a 2 and a 33. That is a success. And they pull a 1. And I believe that is it for North America. Moving on to Japan, telescope at Europa needing a 10. No malfunction. And they get a 2. Orbiter at the main belt targeting Hygeia Palace needing an 8. They get the 8, no malfunction. And their engineering marker is a 5. They do get a depletion there. We'll reduce that exploration. They do have a spectrometer, so we'll get 2 different world cards. So here we go. The 2 that we pull are... Ooh, this is going to be really nice, I think. So we have gotten escarpments and precious metals. So they're going to pick precious metals, and I think Hygeia Palace is going to be the place for ore mining out in the main belt. Next up is a life check. I think it's 3%. No life. And finally a politics marker. On to Io, needing a 14. Alright, that is a 2, so they do get 2 more physics markers. They've probably pulled half the pool here on Io, but this will be their last time because they have gotten a 2 and a 3, so that is a depletion that will move Io down to 0, and 1 more world card opportunity. I've reduced Io down to 0. I've removed the rover. They're going to decommission that. There's nothing else that rover can do there now. The world card they pick is hydrogen, so that's not going to apply. We'll do a search for life of 4%. Nope, no life. And 1 more politics marker for them. The orbiter at Saturn targeting Titan needing a 14. They get a 25, that's fine for them, and a 1. So 2 biology markers at Titan. They have been trying to get that mission for a long time, and they will have to keep on trying because they have pulled a 2 and a 1. So no depletion there. And that is it for exploration. Moving on to production. I don't think anybody's doing anything. North and South America cannot do that on Mars. Looking around here, trading with bases, none of that. Building and expanding bases, nothing is happening. Yeah, I'm taking a look at the North American base on Mars. They do not have the supplies, they don't have the fuel, I should say, to upgrade to a small spaceport. I'm trying to determine if I want to upgrade to a settlement. I don't think so, or upgrade to a settlement. They're currently at 3. I think they'll stay at 3. I don't think they'll go to 4 yet. But they don't necessarily need that large spaceport, or small spaceport, I should say. Right now, they will build that at some point early in the next decade. So with that, that concludes 2069, and that concludes the decade. So we are moving on to the 2070 economics phase. First up, everybody gets 2 politics markers. They also get South America gets 2 more based on their policies. Nobody is at an alliance with anybody, so they don't get any additional politics markers for that. So the way it ended up was Japan still has the most, but it's a lot more even than it was last time. Japan is at 11, North America is at 8, and South America is at 7. Next up is the event roll. Get a 27. Ooh, so 27 is dockyard strikes. Each player must destroy 2 saved resources of their choice at every base they own and add a damage marker to every supply station and spaceport in the game. So I will go through and do that and try to figure out what is being removed everywhere. Okay, so I've applied the damage markers to the supply stations and spaceports. That doesn't affect any crewed vehicle range at the moment. South America does have a range of 1, so nothing is further than Earth anyway. And then North America does have their supply station out at Mars, but the only thing beyond Mars in the main belt right now is the CV2, which the damaged large supply station can still supply, so that's fine. We did apply damage, though. We're going to want to clear that out as quickly as possible. So over here we do have to get rid of two resources at every base. So they're going to take away 2 of the ore in Earth orbit, and they're going to take away the 1 supply that's currently at Mars. And then over here for North America, where's North America? North America, they're going to take away 2 supply at their Mars base. Since they're about to get 10 anyway, that's okay. So not the greatest event, but I think that'll be recoverable enough. All right, on to initiative. Again, I don't think anybody's going to pay to try to increase their initiative, so we'll just go in initiative order to roll. So South America gets a 91, North America gets a 23, and Japan gets an 88. So it'll be South America, Japan, then North America. After that, we will roll to see if any diplomatic relations go back to neutral. So roll an 8. So that's beyond the number of factions, so nobody's moving towards neutral. All right, for improving diplomatic relations, we'll go in reverse initiative order here. I think North and South America are feeling a little threatened by how quickly Japan is advancing down the tech tree. I don't think they are going to be full out collaborating here, but they are both going to be trying to increase their relation with each other by 1. And then so for North America, they're going to try to increase their that's the only one they're going to do. They're going to increase their relation with South America. So on a 6, they get a 5, so that relation does improve. Japan is going to try to improve with China. 8, so no luck there. And South America is going to spend 3, 1 with China and 1 with North America. So here's North America, get a 5, so that does improve. And China, that is a 9, that does not improve. North and South America are now at collaboration, so that'll bring them in some money. Yeah. All right, on to production. I'm just going to add up how much cash each faction gets, and I will report back with what they have. North America earns 44 billion, Japan earns 31, and South America earns 31. As always, I will add in the Earth production for tech points when it comes time to do that during the develop technologies phase. Actually, I take that back because I'm going to be producing with bases now as well for the research production, so I'll go ahead and do that at the same time. Starting with South America here, they have a research station at Earth. They have 1 at near-Earth asteroids, and they've got 1 at Mars. Each of them is a small research station. There are not enough settlements at any of them to provide extra tech, so it's just whatever the world card is. Their base at Earth is going to produce biology, and that's going to be 3. And the 1 at Mars is also doing biology. That's 8 more, so that's 11 biology, as well as 6 engineering at the near-Earth asteroids. And then I'll add that into their Earth production tech points as well. all of the factions do have the technology existing life, so they do get 3 biology and 2 physics for that as well. All right, so I've added up all of that technology. And then bases producing resources. The only one there is for the base at Mars that North America has. They have a large mining station, so it's going to add 1, and they do have 3 settlements, so it's going to add another 1. Mars is 8 supply, so they're going to get 10 supply at Mars. Only North America and Japan have resource trade routes. North America is not going to move anything. They only have 1 base. And Japan doesn't have any bases. South America would move stuff, but they do not have that tech, so we won't do any of that. Next up, rolling for NPF bases. Do we add any? 43. 43 is going to be somewhere. Let me look for that. Is that going to be out at Jupiter somewhere? Yeah, that's at Callisto. Jupiter doesn't happen until 2100, though. Next up is an asteroid being added to 3. That's got to be Mercury, but again, that's not until 2100. And finally, a pirate. Pirate gets added to 80. That's going to be way out, probably at, let's see, 80 is Uranus, so that's 2120, so no pirate as well. Next up are trade markers. The South American Earth base, pulling a, let's see here, pull one out of the bag. It's a fuel token, and it is a 7, so I put that on the buy side. If it's 7 or if it's 6 or higher, I put it on the buy side. So put that there. Next up will be the North American base on Mars, and they are pulling another fuel token. So roll, and that's a 6. So that is on the buy side as well. I'll put that there. And then finally the Chinese base. And that's going to be another fuel token. And that's going to be a 5. So that is a sell marker. So there could be some money to be made there for North America, especially they could buy it at their base and go over and sell it to China. All right, moving on to developed technologies. I'm going to add up how many total tech points everybody has and see how many we have to work with. So this is where the different factions stand with all of their tech pools after everything has been added up. Japan's got the most, but it's not quite as bad as it was last decade for the other two. North and South America did collect quite a bit of biology and engineering tech points, so they'll be able to get a few technologies as well. Okay, so after research, after technologies have been developed, you can see what we have here. North America improved their CV recall rate. Actually, everybody did. South America got CV range 2, so both them and North America will be able to go to the asteroid belt, and if they're able to put something at the asteroid belt, they could move on to Jupiter. Over here, Japan went pretty far in physics. They had quite a few points, and they ended up getting matter and energy conversion, which they used to sell some of their tech for money, which they then used to buy a few points of engineering and got all the way out to space elevator. Everybody got to CV4s here, so we'll see some CV4s and just a few other pickups there at the bottom from the extra points that North and South America had. Moving on to settlement growth, North America on Mars, they need a 3. They got a 4, so no settlement growth here. And then moving on down to the South American settlement in Earth orbit, they need a 1. They also rolled a 4, so no growth there. And finally, for policies, South America chose to increase their base support limit. North America chose to increase their crew vehicle support limit. And Japan chose to start going into the economics and get extra production. And with that, that is the end of the 2070 economics phase. And that is the end of this episode. Thanks for watching, and looking forward to the next one.